Level up your LA Kings experience with Vivid Seats Elite Seats. All the on-ice Kings action with even more exclusive access and rewards. Enjoy great seats to the game in Section 103 along with Yamava Club access and parking included with your purchase. Plus, get a free Team LA Kings shop item at the game. Score your Vivid Seats Elite Seats tickets today and earn perks on each purchase from the only leading ticket company with a rewards program. Experience it live with Vivid Seats, the official partner of the LA Kings. Did you know the LA Kings have their own culinary partner? It's Superfood, celebrating 10 years and over 1 million meals served. Since 2020, the Kings have trusted Superfood to fuel their players. Now through Simply Lunch, you can bring that same performance-driven food to your office. Because when people eat better, they work better. Visit mysuperfood.com. That's mysuperfd.com. Or call 213-973-6145. Qualified companies can enjoy a free lunch for up to 10 managers.
You're listening to All the Kings Men, the official podcast of the LA Kings. Now, here's your host, Jesse Cohen.
Welcome back, Kings fans, to a new episode of All the Kings Men. Joining us today, assistant coach of your LA Kings, Chris Hajt. How are you doing today, Chris?
Good. How are you doing, Jesse?
Good. And featuring Zach Dooley. How are you doing today, Zach?
Jesse, doing great. It feels so nice to hear assistant coach for the LA Kings, Chris Hajt.
Yeah, so, I mean,
really exciting.
The first thing I was going to say, Chris, was welcome back to the NHL. But the second thing I have to say is this is such a departure from our last conversation that Zach and I had with Phil Housley, who is a guy that neither of us know. To you, who I'm going to speak for Zach here for a second. I think Chris Hajt might be one of our favorite people, Zach. I mean, he's certainly one of my favorite people in the organization. I'm assuming you feel the same way.
Too kind. You guys are too
Sure
kind.
Do.
Too kind. No, it's super exciting to be with the Kings, guys. It's so cool, and getting to work with you guys on a daily basis. This is gonna be great.
Chris, you may not remember this, but one of the most embarrassing moments of my career was when you and Craig Johnson agreed to be interviewed by me together as assistant coaches of the Ontario Reign, and we did, I don't know, a 30-minute conversation. It was great.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
that.
And then I went to take the card out of the machine and realized I had never loaded the card, and the entire thing was a waste of time. And I had to sheepishly explain to you guys that I had wasted all of your time for weeks setting it up.
I remember that, but that's okay, bud. We all make mistakes. It's all right.
So, Chris, talking about your time with the Ontario Reign, my first question is, the Kings for years touted the fact that the Reign would be mimicking their style, mimicking their vocabulary, mimicking their systems. And the idea was to make any call-ups, an easier transition for that player to move from the Reign to the Kings. Now that you are coaching the Kings and not the Reign, do you anticipate that relationship? And it's a new general manager, relatively new coach, new coaching staff. Do you anticipate that same relationship between the Kings and the Reign moving forward?
Yeah, for sure. Again, I think, Peter's indicated that and the importance of having the Reign staff involved. And, again, like you said, being there for 9 years and 1 year in Manchester, the importance of playing the same style. And you can go back to Manch and, 10 years ago, we were playing just the same way that the Kings won in 2014 and we won in 2015, right? It was up and down the ice, straight line hockey and physical and fast and, defending and making sure that you're taking care of your own end. And obviously over the years, it's the same thing, right? You want to, again, as a team, have that structure and success. But like you said, for the NHL team to have a player coming up and ready and knowing exactly what's going on is so important for the coaching staff and the players up top. But even more importantly, the guys are getting that opportunity to get called up, right? That's as a coach, we felt and the responsibility to allow them to put their best foot forward, right? You have a guy, for instance, Agus Booth playing his first NHL game, Kenny Connors, Jared Wright, and if we didn't tell them something and all of a sudden it was expected of them up top and they didn't do it, that could be the difference between them staying up in the NHL or them getting sent down. And again, personally, and then I know our staff down there felt that was so important. And again, obviously the message from up top was that we need to play the same way. We need to do the same things. Obviously there's things in a game or against a certain team when we're playing, early on we were playing San Diego 14 times, and you got to change things up within a structure. You got to do it, right? And we had that freedom too. So, but the continuity between the NHL and the AHL is so important.
How do you look at the Kings roster now and you see the fingerprints of, the staff in Ontario and the players who came through Ontario on this Kings team? On the blue line, there's, Mikey Anderson and Brant Clark, both came through the rain up front. Quinton Byfield, Alex Laferriere was there for a bit. You talk about Jared Wright, Taylor Ward has come up, Samuel Hellenius, Alex Turcotte, all these guys have come up. How much pride do you take as a coach, and did the staff in Ontario take when you didn't see guys back and they were able to kind of stick in the NHL and contribute with the Kings?
It's the best part of the job down there, quite frankly. It's seeing guys realize their dreams and getting that opportunity. And there was obviously those guys that you talked about, they were able to get that opportunity and take advantage of it, whether it's for one game or whether it's, you never see them again. And that's such a great thing for us. And as a staff, obviously you're so happy because it just goes, you get to tell them the news, you get to be there when they get that news, and then you get to see how they react. Right. So take an example, when the three of them got those three players I just mentioned got their first games, we're there in the stands and we're watching and we're cheering on, and along with a lot of their teammates and staff and whatnot, that we all take pride in that, right? Not just the coaching staff, but the other staff members, training staff, equipment, medical, everyone feels that pride that they have gotten that opportunity. And again, it's our job to help them to get there.
Bill Housley was the head coach for the Buffalo Sabres. You were his assistant. Now he's the associate coach. You're an assistant. Peter Laviolette is the head coach. Have you had discussions with Peter or Phil about how the, assignment of duties is going to go? Do you know how the role is going to work out once the season starts up?
Yeah, we again went in development camp and we had discussions as a coaching staff of what our roles are going to be. And, again, obviously a main purpose of mine is the penalty kill and being able to help create the structure. And obviously I think the biggest thing is, again, within the roles is the checks and balances and the ability for us to share ideas and the ability for us to coordinate together. I know Derek Johnson and I will work hand in hand on that, and with a hand from the others as well. And again, anticipate that, again, being my main role with the PK, but also help with defensive concepts and the overall, I think, development of the game and the team. And, again, just the start of getting to know each other and getting to work together. For instance, Ray and I sitting down and talking PP and PK and just sharing ideas and, hey, this power play is doing this. What do you think I could do penalty kill wise to counteract this power play, and getting his ideas, right? I think that's going to be one of the biggest strengths of the coaching staff is we all have a different background. We all have different ideas and things that we can bring together to make our team that much better and more prepared against any other team. So again, going back to the Phil thing, mentioning it, obviously I'm very excited to be back with Phil and being on the same staff and working with him. And, you spend 2 years together every day and you understand how each other works and how great of an effort and how much he cares about the players and the team and the organization and the detail in which he does it with. I'm super excited. And obviously with the other staff members, again, starting with Peter, that's, probably a future Hall of Fame coach who knows, how to win. So it's going to be a great opportunity and really looking forward to it.
The penalty kill has been, and the defense has been, one of the calling cards of the Kings for the last however many years. Then last season, a little bit of a fall off on the penalty kill, but still excellent 5-on-5 metrics. Is there a danger? Like, how do you get back to where it was 2 or 3 years ago without overcorrecting and sort of losing all of it completely?
Yeah, you got to have balance, right, to it. And again, you have a bunch of guys that have played it for a long time. And I think the important thing is that we have a belief and a structure that everyone believes in, that we teach, where it's very clear what everyone's responsibilities are. The other thing is there's going to be things and times in a game where they see something that we might not see, and having that relationship and building that trust amongst players and coaches where we can have that conversation between periods and saying, hey, we're going to make this adjustment or that adjustment. But, regardless of, where we've been in the past or how it was last year or 3 years ago, I think it's, again, players want to be coached. They want to have structure, but they also want to be able to trust their instincts and have an ability to go and make the plays they need to make in order to be successful. So, again, me personally, and us as a staff, I think that's a really important balance to what we do. But getting back to it, I think of, Todd, and, something I learned from him is making sure you have that foundation of what you believe in. And that's, different on the PK, right? What is our structure? What is our beliefs? And then how do we follow through with it and stay with it every day?
Ontario led the Pacific Division in PK percentage last year. Throughout, your time, my time with the organization, the Reign have always been a strong penalty killing team. How much can you take from things that you had success with in the AHL and try to translate them to the NHL? Or is it a little bit different of a game with different caliber of player and you have to maybe do things a little bit differently between the two leagues?
I think there's a very similar way of operating between both leagues. I think having that time, in Ontario allowed myself and the other coaches to play with things a little bit with certain structures and setups. And the thing is whether it's AHL or NHL, they're both evolving, right? Power plays are adjusting to what penalty kills are doing and vice versa. So, there's definitely a bunch of different scenarios and reads and things that the power plays are trying to do in order to mess up penalty kills. And we got to make sure that we're in a position to understand, again, during a certain type of play, this is what our responsibilities are, or this is what you need to look for. And again, I think that, like I said, that time in Ontario allowed me to, I guess, study the game or see different things that teams are doing. And I think something that we did a lot of too is we weren't just watching AHL games when we were down there. We were watching what the Kings were doing and watching what other top penalty killing teams were doing across the NHL, Carolinas or New Jersey or Pittsburgh or whoever it was, to pick out certain ideas, right? As coaches, we steal from other teams, and whether it's drills or plays or how to defend certain things. And, again, long-winded answer, but we definitely, I can definitely take things from the American League and implement it in the NHL, but again, without reinventing the wheel either.
Coaching staffs in hockey are evolving at a rate faster than my brain can keep up with. We talked about this with Phil Housley a little bit. When I was growing up, I don't know that every team had an assistant coach. Then, I can remember one assistant coach on the 93 Kings. When you were in Ontario and John Wroblewski left, suddenly you and Craig Johnson were sort of co-head coaches.
Yep.
I don't know that there was ever really an official title given, but I mean, now we have a Kings staff with a head coach, an associate coach, and 3 assistant coaches, a goaltending coach, video coordinator, etc. Do you find that your experience with odd coaching, situations in Ontario will, it's too early to say whether it'll help you or not, but do you suspect it'll help you manage this rather large coaching staff with all sorts of different titles on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think you can adjust to the moment and you can adjust to who you're around and what you're doing. But, again, I think like anything else, it's building our relationship and getting into the fire too, right? Like once we get behind the bench, we're going to get to know each other even a lot better. Training camp, being on the ice together, then things will morph into what they're going to be, and again, will fall into our responsibilities, but also build that trust amongst each other. And again, I think, does the experience help? For sure, but I think, getting to that point of when we're in every day and we're you're 24/7 together, so it's going to morph into it really quick. And I think one of the biggest things I understood coming out of development camp was how much each staff member cares. And obviously for me, I have that relationship with the video coaches and Bucks and Derek Johnson and the other staff members that have come from the Reign or just being around the Kings for 10 years, right? So there's definitely advantages and things that I can help with the other staff members that are coming in, like Phil or Peter or Ray or whatnot, that I can help with that transition, but also they're going to put their stamp on it as well to who they are and what they do. So it'll be a real good opportunity.
Coaching staffs in football, American football, are really specialized, right? You have your offensive coordinator, your defensive coordinator. And I think it in the past Kings staffs, it's been really easy to sort of view them that way. This guy's in charge of this, that guy's in charge of that. But it sounds like, based on our conversations with Peter Laviolette and Phil Housley, there'll be a lot less specification in the staff. So, you mentioned that your responsibility would be the PK. But if Yoel Armia winds up playing on the penalty kill and the power play, as he did last season,
yep,
will you find yourself reaching across the table to slap Ray Whitney's hand and say, "Keep your hands off my player"? Like, that's my guy. Don't be putting him in situations that'll tire him out.
Not at all. Not at all. I think that's going to be like I said, that's going to be the beauty of the staff, or a really great part is that communication factor between us. And again, you can see it right away in our meetings that we were the amount of communication and how we're getting along and the things we were talking about. And again, I don't think obviously Peter will oversee everything and do what he needs to do. But I think he definitely shows, how it sounds, he shows a lot of trust in the people that he hires. And, again, I think he'll allow us to do what we need to do and have that communication. If it is Ray and I, or Phil and I, or Ray and Phil, or DJ and I, or I just think it's going to be a really good cohesive unit that, again, I think the players will like and appreciate as well, where, we're on the same page and we're getting it done together.
We've talked with Peter a few weeks ago. I've spoken with Ken Holland, and 5-on-5 play for the Kings last year was a strength, but it seems like this summer has been such a big focus on power play, on penalty kill. We spoke with Phil Housley last week. He talked about the importance of 3-on-3, and the Kings struggled in that area last year. How important is it to this staff as a whole that those other parts of the game improve? And it just feels like, with the hires made and the makeup of this staff, there's an added double down on the importance of all of those other parts of the game that really can kind of swing a close game in your favor.
100%, right? Those little things, like you said, 3-on-3 special teams, they're huge, right? They allow you to have, one extra goal a game possibly to make a difference. Or, if our power play gets an extra goal, then we're not going into overtime, right? Then you're lessening the amount that the Kings went into overtime last year. It was crazy. It was so much. And, again, we allow one less power play goal per game. That's going to allow us to have more success. So again, I think there's definitely a focus on that. You can argue that, again, we have more coaches to really, really focus on our area, but again, have those checks and balances to what we're doing. But, I can compare it to last year, right? Like with the Reign, we're a good defensive team. Offensive numbers weren't very good. We were opportunistic. We had, we found ways to score, but our special teams and goaltending were outstanding. And that allowed us to have a really good, real good record, and allowed us to finish first in the division. And I think that's a big reason. And, you get a few more points just by having better special teams and a better 3-on-3 record. You're going to be pushing to get to the top there. And for sure, getting back, obviously you want to get back to the playoffs and want to make noise there.
I don't remember what percentage of games it was last year that went to overtime for the Kings. I think it was close to 40%. I mean, it was just an absurd
Felt like
amount.
80.
Yeah, but I mean, it was well beyond odd, right? It was just, it got to the point where you just laugh every time a game, it'd be 2-1 in the first period, and you'd go, well, someone's going to tie it up eventually, and this will wind up going to overtime. How much of a trend like that, whatever the trend may be, whether it's winning in overtime, going to overtime, power play trends, penalty kill trends, whatever it is, how much of a trend that seems to go on forever is just the mentality of the team? And how easy is it to lose that if it's a positive trend? How hard is it to break if it's a negative trend?
That's a really good question, Jesse. That's
Thanks.
it's yeah, no, honestly, as coaches, sometimes you shake your head because you're like, how did we get into this situation again where, you're going through it, you're talking about the process of the game and how we're playing and our mindset and the things you're doing on a daily basis to just trying to become better in certain situations. And obviously not being up top last year and fully knowing I guess what was going on behind closed doors, but I'm sure that they were trying to get it where they weren't going into so many overtime games just by improving other parts of your game. So again, trends and whatnot. Obviously, you're looking at stats and analytics and things to try and get a grip on what's going on, and how we can, whether maybe it's a structure thing where you're watching, let's say overtime record. I know I've watched some other teams in their 3-on-3 game, and how can we adapt some of those things. But those are obviously conversations for later. But yeah, I don't have a perfect answer other than the fact that you want to be aware of what's going on and then working at the problem or the trend or how can we improve in those areas. And maybe it's something again with our 5-on-5 offense to get that extra goal so we don't have to go into the overtime and continue with that trend, right? So there's definitely a process towards it and within your game.
A lot of times I've talked with guys who coached in the NHL for the first time and got back to the league and felt that the second time in the NHL, they were more prepared to coach in the NHL maybe than they were the first time. From your years in Buffalo, what did you feel you learned that's maybe made you a better coach today than you were when you went to the NHL the first time? And do you feel almost like more prepared to coach in this league than you did the first time?
Well, you know what, I 7 years or 8 years ago when I first got, or maybe it's longer than that, it's 9 years ago when I first got hired in Buffalo, right? I've grown a lot in 9 years, right? I've had a lot more experience in situations. You brought up being co-head coaches there with Craig Johnson. You talk about COVID, you talk about, different things where, you're making adjustments. Like I think at COVID, I coached 5 games in 6 nights and I was with the Kings and with the Reign as head coach. You think about, just age, right? Like you just have more games under your belt. You've seen more things and it doesn't matter American League, NHL level. I'm definitely more prepared this time than the last time. You're going in 2017, you're going in and you're coaching with Davis Payne and Phil Housley and Tom Ward. And you're like, holy crap, like this is, like you kind of sit back maybe for the first little bit and you're like, hey, I want to listen to these guys and what their ideas are. And then over time you get more comfortable and then you're expressing what you a little bit more what you do and what your beliefs are and things of that nature. Not that I ever held back, but I think, hitting the ground running and understanding what the NHL grind is, right? Like you're constantly preparing for the next game. You're, working with players on little things and, dealing with the NHL players versus AHL players. There's a whole bunch of things where I'm definitely more prepared for and I can, hit the ground running on versus, not knowing what I was getting into, right? Or not, for instance, not ever coaching a game in Nashville. Well, now I know what I'm doing when I go to Nashville and the room I'm going into and the areas. And now I can just really settle in and focus on what I need to do personally within the team structure and coaching structure.
And, part of the familiarity too is, the Phil Housley connection, obviously with him in Buffalo. And we talked with Phil recently and it just seems like he thinks the game very differently than a lot of people. And I say that as a positive. We really enjoyed our conversation with Phil. Like, how uniquely does he kind of think the game, especially compared to the things we've kind of heard here in LA in the past with regards to kind of how the defenseman might want to play under Phil?
Well, again, you think of the attack mindset and how he played, right? But also how he's coached his teams. You think of his Nashville teams when they went to the finals, and especially the second year in Buffalo, we had D joining, we had aggressive slams on the wall. We were very aggressive in the offensive zone with movement and motion and trying to create more. And it's he doesn't like playing safe. It's about being aggressive. It's about ending plays quickly, defending the rush, trying to get pucks back, but be also, if we have to give pucks up, being more aggressive on the forecheck and really harping on those defensemen to get up with the play. Like, you're trying to beat your guy up the ice. You're not just settling on moving the puck and your job's done. No, it's with him. It's your job's not done. Like, he wants you to go. Peter wants you to go. Like, that's a huge strength of him. And I think, one story I can tell about Phil, the first year in Buffalo, I ran the D, and it was after practice, and I'm doing a D drill with him, and it was like point shots, and he's like, Chris, he's like, he stepped in, he's like, Chris, it's got to be faster. It's got to be faster. You got to snap the puck, and it's got to be way quicker in what they do. Like, his enthusiasm and his ability to promote that all the time was so evident, and I learned from it so much, where it was, everything's got to be fast. We want to move the puck fast. We want to be efficient in what we do coming out of the zone, but it's got to be quick. Neutral zone, let's make sure we're quick. Defending, let's make sure we're quick. Because that's, like you said, he has a different mindset, and that's how he played. That's how he coaches. And it's infectious with staff members and with players. And I think the guys will really love playing for him.
2 quick follow-ups. One, slams on the wall. I'm going to need some clarification on that phrase.
Well, just pinching on the wall.
Okay.
Right?
I figured, but I just
being aggressive with being up with the play.
Second one, it's a pretty well-established trope in professional sports that excellent players don't always make great coaches, because there's something about them that made them amazing that they can't explain to other people. So when you have a guy like Phil Housley with a Hall of Fame career, and you're talking about him stepping in and wanting it fast and quick and the way he played, as a coach yourself, have you seen any hiccup in his ability to communicate to maybe, frankly, less talented players how to play the way Phil Housley played?
Not at all. No, he can relate to every single player that he's coaching. His the amount of effort and time he spends with every player, the amount of care he has with the players that he coaches, not only on the ice but off the ice as well. Again, it goes beyond just saying, hey, play fast and play that aggressive style, right? It takes time. It takes, it's going to take a little bit of time for some of the guys to adjust to that, but once they get it, and obviously Phil will do a great job of painting that picture for everybody and what is needed, just like he did in Buffalo. Like, he was very clear on his expectations, and whether it was Rasmus Ristolainen or it was Rasmus Dahlin, right? Like, everyone knew what they were doing and had those expectations within the system, but also within their own play and how they can get better. And he's an excellent teacher with that.
Before we let you go, I just wanted to ask you about 2 guys who you coached or coached against over the last year, who are kind of on the periphery of the picture here: Angus Booth and Scott Perunovich. Obviously, you've seen Angus Booth's development over the last few years, made his debut, and he's really come along nicely. And I know you've coached against Scott Perunovich quite a bit in the AHL. What could the Kings potentially expect from those 2 guys, from your experience, if they are with the NHL club and have the chance to contribute with the Kings?
So first and foremost, Scott, he's, in Tucson, he was very hard to contain, very good skater, very competitive. He definitely has an edge and a way about him where you notice you don't like playing against him, because he's a difference maker, both, offensively, but also defensively with his skating and his physicality. So definitely, right away you're just like, okay, this guy's a really good hockey player and really competitive, and did a really good job on their power play. Like, obviously I got to see it a lot running the PK in Ontario, and whenever he was playing, you had to be aware of it, where again, he was able to transport the puck. He was able to make correct reads on the breakouts, and then just have a presence in the zone. So again, expect a good two-way game from him, and again, a competitive game. Angus Booth, he's such a, obviously know him a lot better on a personal level, just grown so much, taken so many steps, not only on the ice, but off the ice. I just think of, he is in elite shape. He takes care of himself. His maturity level and how he's grown off the ice has led to that growth on the ice. And again, just a well-liked person who treats his teammates and coaches and staff with respect, number one. But everything he does on a daily basis, he works on his game. He takes information in, whether from any of the coaches or watching his teammates, to, obviously his call-up helped, watching, guys like Mikey and Drew, and, he's a student of the game, and he got a little bit of taste of it, and how good of a skater he is, and he's a really good defender. He's able to close distance. He's able to have really good gaps and sticks against forwards, and he played, him and Kirill Kirsanov, they played against every team's top line last year, and they did an excellent job. And one thing I really like about Boother too is he can play both sides. He can play left side. He can play right side. Did a real good job on the PK. Didn't ask of him as much of a power play role the last 2 years, but in junior obviously had that capability. So every year you're going to grow as a player, and again, we'll see where he gets to and what kind of summer he has. I anticipate him to come in and have an outstanding camp. And again, like I talked about, just an excellent person. And again, you cheer for him because he puts the time and effort, and he cares.
One final question from me, Chris, and I'm going to ask you to confirm a theory of mine. I noticed a few years ago that the Ontario Reign were using face-off alignments that I had never seen before. Sometimes I could only describe it as an I formation on the face-off. You'd have, the face-off man, two guys on the side of the face-off dot, and then your other two people just lined up. A T formation would be more accurate. Anyway, it drove me crazy because I would see Ontario doing these face-off lineups that I had never seen before. It was almost always in the offensive zone. And I asked, and I kept asking, and finally somebody told me that it was TJ Tynan who just liked to arrange guys on the face-off dot. But it kept happening even after he was gone. And so my theory was that Craig Johnson is a secret offensive coaching genius. Can you confirm or deny that suspicion?
Well, CJ's an awesome coach. There's no doubt about that. But it was TJ that was moving lots of people around for sure. And, I guess it kind of stuck a little bit. But, TJ had a unique way. And even in Colorado, I don't know how he won some of those draws where he'd slap it to some guy who's on the far dot, and you're like, how did he do that, right?
That's the thing. The lineups were the face-off configurations were crazy. I'd never seen it before.
And sometimes you just shake your head and be like, I don't know how he did that, but he did it. And I mean, that's the thing too, is that you give freedom to your players to make certain plays and reads. Now if it didn't work ever, you'd be like, okay, TJ, like enough's enough, like let's go to, like you said, more traditional higher percentage type face-off play. But at the same time, it's important to mix it up too and keep teams guessing, because again, like you said, in the American League, you play teams 8, 10, 12 times in a year. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, Chris Hajt, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you not only at practice but behind the bench at Crypto.com Arena.
Thanks, gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your summer.